My name is Nathalie Boltt. I live in Vancouver now. I've been living in Canada for the last 4 years, and I come from Johannesburg, South Africa. I lived in New Zealand for 10 years as well, and I came to this country because I was lucky enough to work in the TV industry, and I'm mainly known at the moment for Riverdale.
So maybe you can elaborate on what are the reasons why you care about old growth forests? Why are they important to you?
Well, as soon as I became when I first got a following in South Africa, I was a household name on one of the shows there. I thought, well, what do you do with fame? What's it good for? Outside of a couple of magazine covers. So I started working for a company called Earthlife, and they were zero waste, anti-nuclear, and so I had a mentor and learned more and more about the issues that we're facing. And so Riverdale is a very, very popular show. All of the people on the show have huge followings. So again, I thought, well, how do I help? And a friend of mine, Adrian Huff, got hold of me and said, do you know what's happening in Fairy Creek on Vancouver Island, which is obviously just a tiny little microcosm of the whole of BC, where old growth trees are being logged. And the reason I want to save them is, for one, why would you destroy something that's older than Western civilization? For another, they support so many other species. They clean water, they clean the air. They're absolutely beautiful. And they provide so much in terms of economic stimulation, with so much more standing, rather than a tree, a 1,200, 2,000-year-old tree that is logged, cut into timber and then sent overseas. I mean, what is that? That's just profit, and then it's gone. And no, my son, who's with me here, all of our younger generations, they'll never know that. They'll never know of these behemoths. So I would like them to stay standing for that reason. But also, we've just come out of we're in the middle actually of a heat wave that hit nearly 50 degrees Celsius in Canada. Like those are heat waves that were scary in Africa, where I was born. When you're talking about Canada, there's something very, very wrong. People dropping dead. They always talk about people dropping dead from the heat. What do you think is happening to the environment, to the animals, to nature? If that's how people who can actually protect themselves and get into water, get into AC, what is happening to the environment? Well, it's burning up. It's wildfires.
No air-conditioned escape for all the salamanders and all the wildlife here.
Yeah. So we're in a climate crisis. It's a complete disaster. It's the 11th hour. We all know that, and yet 1,200 2,000-year-old trees are being logged.
Tell me where we are now. What do you think about this forest here?
Well, we've just traveled to another planet. We've gone back in time. We're prehistory here, and you look around and these are creatures that honestly, they're the time of you expect a dinosaur to come walking through these forests. You can feel, you can smell how healthy they are. Look around, everything is growing. These big old trees, they're like grandparents. They keep everything calm, keep everything flowing. And if you clear cut these, everything dies. We're in the middle of mass extinction, the sixth mass extinction, and cutting down ancient trees is exactly what's causing it, and speeding it up.
Now, you've been perhaps the most outspoken celebrity, one of the most outspoken celebrities in North America about protecting forests and protecting the environment. So maybe you can explain some of your background in environmental activism and different issues and what you've done as well for old growth forests in British Columbia.
Well, I just like to use my platform for things that I think matter. I look up to people like Mark Ruffalo and Brian Adams and Cole Sprouse, the other celebrities who are using their platforms for good. And I just think, well, that's what we all should be doing. Why are people talking about surface level nonsense? I mean, sure, it's fun to be fun, and I can do that too. But when you want to actually change the world that you live in, or at least maybe improve it or leave it better than how you found it, surely that's what having a following is for. Shifting people's mindset. We all have enough entertainment and enough gadgets to keep us superficial and distracted. But when it comes to actually making a difference, you need to commit, because while everyone's sort of sitting on the fence and not being and not putting much thought into the crises that our planet is facing, politicians, corporates, will all come in and they'll mow it down while you're sitting watching TikTok. What I would like BC to do is get in line with what the rest of the world is doing in terms of protecting marine and land ecosystems. We need to have 25% by 2025, 30% by 2030, just as the bare minimum, and we are nowhere near that. BC has forests like nowhere else in the world. There are less than 3% of the old growth forests left. So it just needs to be absolutely now. Just halt old growth logging while everything is discussed, while the negotiations between everybody who's involved in this crisis is settled. But it has to be now. You can't talk and log.
What would you like to see the provincial government do?
I'd like to see the provincial government halt immediately the logging of the biggest and best of old growth forests. There's 3% left. And so this kind of talk while we log system has to stop. We don't have time, we don't have enough ancient forests left, and we need to get in line with what the rest of the world is doing, which is 25% of land and marine ecosystems protected by 2025 and 30% by 2030 at the bare minimum. The government needs to fund First Nations old growth protection efforts. That means that federal government has provided quite a bit of money already, but the BC government needs to come to the table so that there is enough funding for logging to stop.
And any last thoughts about why old growth are important, why you care? Why do you care about nature and environment anyways? What's the big deal?
The reason I care about old growth forests is because we live in a city, we live in a dense city, we pretty much always have. And, you just see these cities growing, people becoming more and more unhappy, people becoming more and more depressed, disconnected, reliant. That's why I like old growth forests. Reliant on distraction, materialism, drugs, addictions, therapy, when really, what they're lacking is their connection to nature, and it's getting worse and worse. And once it's gone, you'll never be able to just go for a walk in the woods and feel better. Because you do. You go for a walk in the woods and you feel better. Scientifically, it's been shown, that there is all kind of health and regeneration and even, anti-cancer properties that come from a walk in the woods. And there we sit in the cities and we worry and poison ourselves. Why are we doing that? And I come from a place where I was just constantly surrounded by animals. Just COVID, how many people just realized how desperately they love and need the attention and of other species, So when I was no longer surrounded by animals, I just went, this is wrong. We need to protect the environments that stimulate other species, and we're in the middle of sixth mass extinction. If we don't do that, we're going to have nothing. It's all going to be gone. It's going to be humans and the things that they like to distract themselves with until suddenly you realize that's not enough anymore. You can't eat money.
It's true.
Yeah.